So it sounds like a puzzle that really shouldn't fit together at all. I mean, you've got a 20,000-year-old healed thigh bone. You've got this high-minded Oxford philosophy, and then...
An imminent military invasion of France.
Right, exactly, the invasion of France. But today, we're going to map out exactly how all these totally distinct timelines collide in Robert Newman's 2026 novel, Intelligence.
It's quite the ride.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive. Whether you're looking for, a fresh perspective on history, or you're just fascinated by the intersection of archaeology and espionage, you are definitely in the right place.
Absolutely.
Our mission today is to unpack how a single archaeological artifact can sort of ripple through time and directly impact a frantic, high-stakes chase through a European forest during World War II. It's a really complex narrative.
Yeah.
And to help synthesize these sprawling topics, I have the ideal guide sitting right across from me.
I'm ready to get into it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So would you set the stage for us? Take us back to 1938 Oxford.
Gladly. To understand the monumental events that unfold in 1940, we really first have to ground ourselves in 1938.
Right.
Specifically in the quiet, dusty halls of the Pitt Rivers Museum at Oxford.
Okay.
And here we're introduced to two characters who basically represent entirely contrasting worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
On one side, we have Ida Marshall. She is an American paleontologist and philosopher from Texas.
And she stands out in Oxford, right?
Very much so. She wears denim with copper rivets, which, brings a very grounded, practical demeanor to this incredibly stiff academic setting.
Yeah.
And on the other side, we have Dr. Dieter Wetzel. He's a very formal German paleoanthropologist who is painstakingly trying to reconstruct fragments of a mammoth tusk.
Okay, let's unpack this, because their initial meeting is essentially this collision of philosophies that's just disguised as an academic collaboration.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so Ida steps in and helps Wetzel literally piece together this mammoth tusk into this stunning 7-inch Löwenfrau or Lion Lady figurine, and Wetzel is thrilled.
Right, he's overjoyed.
But then Ida reveals the real reason she sought him out in the first place. She projects a slide of a Cro-Magnon femur from a French cave called La Grotte Ardennes. And on this bone, there is this thing called a fracture callus. Right.
It's essentially a geological stain proving the bone was broken and then completely healed.
Exactly. And for Ida, this isn't just some medical curiosity. A broken femur for a nomadic hunter-gatherer 20,000 years ago that should have been a guaranteed death sentence.
You can't run, you can't hunt.
You can't do anything. So to Ida, this healed bone is physical proof of prehistoric love and society. It means the group stopped. Someone fed her, protected her, and cared for her while she literally couldn't walk.
Exactly. It implies that morality and care are innate, that they're biological imperatives. But Wetzel completely scoffs at this interpretation.
He's so dismissive.
He is. He looks at the slide and calls it a, quote, grubby bone. He tells Ida that she must be a very hungry dog to look at a bone and see love. Yeah, Wetzel views early humans as purely practical, perhaps even savage, driven only by the survival of the fittest. He completely refuses to see an innate moral endowment.
And this exact tension bleeds directly into our next scene. Because we move from the museum to Ida's Oxford rooms, specifically F's staircase, she hosts this informal discussion group, and it's here that this abstract philosophy regarding human nature really takes center stage.
And things get heated. You have characters like Glyn Gower and Vernon Alwyn passionately arguing for extrajudicial actions in the name of the greater good.
Right, the classic utilitarian arguments.
Exactly. They're throwing around these classic thought experiments, the trolley problem, the ticking time bomb scenario. Glyn is casually asking if they should trap 2 people on a level crossing just to save 20 people further down the train track.
Which is such a dorm room philosophy debate. But then, pushing back against this utilitarian logic, we have Ida's close friend, Merry. She's this tall, incredibly precise English philosopher, and she's there with the brilliant J.L. Austin.
Yes, the famous J.L. Austin.
Mm-hmm. And they are fiercely arguing for the rule of law.
And it's important to frame this debate within the context of 1938 Britain. The policy of appeasement is failing, the threat of fascism is looming over everything, and the intellectual class is really grappling with how to respond.
Yeah, the stakes feel a lot higher than just a classroom hypothetical.
Precisely. Merry points out that Glyn is completely ignoring the fact that his hypothetical actions are illegal. She is essentially arguing that in the real world, no single individual has the right or the omniscience to just play God and decide who lives or dies, regardless of whatever mathematical outcome they calculate.
Right.
J.L. Austin's insistence on the rule of law is really a defense against the very kind of authoritarianism that's brewing in Europe at that moment.
But the debate isn't just an academic exercise, because Wetzel is actually in the room. He's the German guest, and he suddenly interrupts this very British, very theoretical argument with a chilling hypothetical of his own.
What's fascinating here is how Wetzel forces the room to face the immediate political reality. He just asks this question: if you could prevent a world war between our two nations by killing one person, would you do it?
Just drops that bomb.
And it silences the room entirely. And for you, the listener, this is a crucial moment to bookmark. Newman isn't just padding the story with fun parlor games. This abstract academic debate brilliantly foreshadows the deadly, real-world choices these exact characters are going to make when the war actually begins.
That perfectly sets up our shift to the year 1940. So the phony war is ending and the stakes have become violently real. Merry is now working at the Photographic Interpretation Unit in Wembley, and the mechanics of her job are genuinely remarkable.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. She's using a technique called 3D spectrometry. She takes two flat, overlapping aerial photographs that were taken just a second apart by a speeding Spitfire plane. She puts them under a stereoscope, and suddenly those flat gray shadows just pop into a three-dimensional landscape.
It's a job that requires an extraordinary level of critical thinking, pattern recognition, and an unwavering commitment to empirical evidence. She's looking for anomalies in the landscape, but she has to interpret them correctly.
Which leads to this brilliant anecdote about the Baltic oil silo.
Oh, I love this part.
Right. So the day shift leaves Merry an urgent panic note for Bomber Command. They think they found massive enemy infrastructure, this perfect circular silo. But Merry gets her stereoscope, and she even uses a clothier's loop.
Which is like a tiny magnifying glass usually used for counting threads and tailoring, right?
Exactly. She uses it to look closer and realizes there are no service roads leading to this supposed silo. There are no tire tracks. It's just flattened grass. An old tethered goat has been walking in a perfect circle all day.
A goat?
Yeah. She writes back, "Old nanny goat, no bombing needed." She literally saves a bomber crew from flying a deadly, completely pointless mission based on an assumption. Oh, and around this time, she also casually spots a weird quote-unquote ski jump structure at Peenemünde and requests a sortie.
Which is a very subtle nod to the V-2 rocket testing that will devastate London later in the war.
Exactly. So Merry relies entirely on evidence, meticulous observation, and protocol.
Contrast that with Glyn Gower.
Oh boy.
Glyn is working in military intelligence, specifically MI-14, and his job is tracking the German B-Dienst. This is the German naval intelligence branch responsible for code breaking.
And you really have to understand the stakes here. If the Germans can read Royal Navy codes, the Atlantic supply lines get slaughtered by U-boats. Britain starves. The pressure is unimaginable.
And when Glyn meets Merry at the Café de Paris, he makes a stunning confession about exactly how he's handling that pressure.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Glyn confesses that he is unilaterally, secretly withholding intelligence from the British Royal Navy about the positions of their own merchant ships.
It's what?
It is. And why? Because he is guessing based purely on the high number of sunken ships that the Germans have cracked the British naval codes. But wait, looking at it from Glyn's perspective, he is looking at actual sunken ships. He might be breaking the law by withholding this intel, but isn't he right to suspect a leak? In the face of those casualties, it makes Merry's rigid adherence to the rules look almost naive, doesn't it?
It does. And that's the ethical trap Newman sets for the reader. Glyn feels entirely justified. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Glyn is enacting the exact utilitarian philosophy he argued for on F's staircase.
The trolley problem in real life.
Exactly. He has placed himself above the law. He's playing God, deciding who gets information and who doesn't, all for his perceived greater good of protecting the broader fleet.
But Merry is absolutely appalled.
She is. She correctly points out that he has no hard evidence, only a hunch. What he's doing is high treason. He has taken an abstract thought experiment and turned it into a unilateral, illegal act of war.
Wow. And while her friends are fighting the war from desks in London, Ida is incredibly frustrated. As an American woman, she feels entirely sidelined from the war effort, so she uses a tiny 35-pound bursary, secured by Merry, to take a sabbatical to the Ardennes forest in France.
Right into the danger zone.
Yeah. Her mission is to physically excavate that healed Cro-Magnon femur. She wants tangible, physical proof that moral obligations are an endowment of our natural history, not just some recent invention of modern civilization.
She sneaks down a manhole into La Grotte Ardennes, descending into the suffocating darkness. And who did she find already down there in the cave?
Dr. Dieter Wetzel.
Dr. Dieter Wetzel.
And what they uncover together is breathtaking. After pulling away a calcite crust, they reveal a perfectly preserved 20,000-year-old mural. There's a swimming stag with wide eyes, a mammoth suckling her calf, a 6-horned rhino, and crucially, a border of geometric stick figure dancers holding hands.
It's one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history.
It really is, but the reverence lasts for barely a minute. Wetzel takes his photos, and then he picks up a hammer and a chisel, and he starts brutally hacking the ancient art off the wall. He is actively destroying it.
And we have to ask why a paleoanthropologist would destroy the very thing he dedicated his life to finding. Ida puts the pieces together. She realizes Wetzel is now an attaché to German General von Manstein. And Wetzel knows the secret invasion plan.
The Manstein plan.
Yes. The German Panzer tanks are going to invade France directly through the dense Ardennes forest. This was a route the French and British thought was completely impassable because of the dense trees and narrow roads.
They thought it was a natural barrier.
Exactly. Wetzel is chiseling the cave to hide any evidence of this imminent invasion route from French artillery and bombers. He's sanitizing the landscape for a blitzkrieg.
So the tension in this cave becomes lethal. Wetzel realizes Ida knows the plan, so he strikes her in the head with a chunk of the cave rock. And ironically, it's a piece with the painted hyena on it.
A dark detail.
Yeah. He ties her wrists and ankles, and he leaves her lying on the cave floor next to a primed quote-unquote swan's egg grenade attached to a tripwire. And how does he justify this murder to himself? He literally cites the F staircase debate.
He brings it right back to Oxford.
He tells her that sacrificing her one life will save millions of German soldiers from the meat grinder of trench warfare.
It is the ultimate horrifying perversion of the trolley problem. He has rationalized cold-blooded murder through utilitarian logic. Wetzel has become the manifestation of Glyn's abstract arguments, taken to their absolute fascist extreme.
But Ida isn't going down without a fight. What follows is an incredibly visceral escape sequence. She manages to get a jagged World War I shell fragment from her pocket and uses it to saw through her bindings, but she can't move the grenade without setting off the tripwire.
It's a terrifying setup.
But just prior to Wetzel's attack, she had successfully excavated the very artifact she crossed an ocean to find the mineralized 20,000-year-old Cro-Magnon femur. She picks it up and muscle memory kicks in. Back in Texas, she was a star field hockey player.
I love this part.
It's so good. She uses that ancient fossilized thigh bone like a hockey stick, slots the pelvic girdle under the grenade, and snoops and flicks the explosive away just as Wetzel pulls the tripwire from outside. The blast collapses the cave, but she survives.
It's a profound thematic moment. The physical evidence of ancient human care and healing becomes the literal tool for her survival against modern human savagery. The past directly rescues her in the present.
Yeah. So Ida digs her way out of the rubble, bloody and concussed, and she manages to retrieve her Peugeot 350 motorcycle. But she is immediately pursued by 2 Abwehr agents, German military intelligence, named Lothar and Radio Man. It is a frantic chase through the French countryside.
She manages to lose them temporarily at a hotel in Charleville-Mézières. But before she flees again, she does something brilliantly strategic. She knows the Abwehr is going to search her room. She writes a message on the top sheet of a hotel notepad, tearing the page away, but intentionally leaving deep indentations on the pad beneath.
He wants them to find it.
Exactly. She wants the Abwehr to find it. And they do. They rub a pencil over the pad, reveal the text, and immediately broadcast it over radio to General von Manstein.
And because they broadcast it, British intelligence intercepts it, specifically Glyn Gower at MI-14. The message is entirely in English, and to anyone else it reads like absolute nonsense. It says, Martians land, Jupiter's icy moon, and alien shelter. Only pretty ring time. O2 pumps no defense.
And this is where Glyn's brilliant, if chaotic, mind shines. He has to decode this frantically. He figures out that Martians is an inside joke between him and Ida. It's a pun on the German word Aufmarschanweisung, which means deployment instructions.
Okay.
Jupiter's moon is Ganymede, and alien shelter refers to the character Aliena. Both are pseudonyms from Shakespeare's play As You Like It, where the characters take shelter in the forest of Ardennes.
The Ardennes. It's a masterclass in associative thinking. And Pretty Ringtime is a lyric from a song in that same play referring to springtime. Finally, O2 pumps means trees. Trees are no defense against the tanks. Glyn pieces it all together. The Germans are invading through the Ardennes forest this spring. It's the biggest intelligence scoop of the war.
A massive breakthrough.
Right. So he grabs his coat to run to the war office, but tragedy strikes. Right at that moment, Redcap's military police storm into the office. They arrest Glyn for his earlier treason of withholding the naval codes. They drag him away in a strappado hold.
It's awful.
Yeah. For those unfamiliar, a strappado hold involves tying a person's arms behind their back and pulling them upward, often dislocating the shoulders. It's brutal. He is hauled away before he can tell a single soul about the tanks.
It's devastating. And it leads to what we can call the Cassandra curse. In Greek mythology, Cassandra was cursed to speak true prophecies that no one would ever believe. Ida eventually makes it back to London, battered and exhausted, but she faces an impenetrable wall of arrogant bureaucracy.
The institutional arrogance here is infuriating. She goes to Vernon Alwyn, who is now somehow a rising star at MI3. He completely patronizes her. He compares her intelligence to girl guides calling in false parachutists. He insists the French are perfectly safe behind the Maginot Line.
It's willful ignorance.
Yes. Mary tries to help by taking her aerial covers to her boss at Wembley, a man named Keating. Keating arrogantly halves Mary's estimate of the German tanks just to appease his bosses. He insists it's all just a German decoy. The Air Ministry literally calls Mary's department a, quote, nest of useful idiots.
Newman is giving us a masterclass in institutional inertia here.
Yeah.
Alwyn and Keating aren't necessarily stupid. They are trapped by their own cognitive biases. They've built their entire defensive strategy around the Dial plan in Belgium. So any intelligence that contradicts that paradigm, like tanks in the Ardennes, is automatically dismissed. It's the ultimate failure of the very intelligence the book is named after. But there is a turning point, and it comes from J.L. Austin, the same philosopher from F Staircase who argued for the rule of law. He has been out sick with pneumonia, but he's now running the advanced intelligence section. The Imperial General Staff orders him to find the quote-unquote missing German panzer divisions.
And what does Austin do? While his team is looking at official reports from Pilsen, he astutely demands they bring him the contents of the disgraced Glyn Gower's desk. They dump out the pencils and the pet pills, and right there, Austin finds the coded intercept.
He finds it.
He verifies the logic. He applies the same rigorous adherence to evidence that he applied to the rule of law in 1938. He immediately gets on the phone and requests a spy plane from RAF Fighter Command to fly over the Belgian border.
And it works. Austin walks into the War Office and presents fresh aerial photos to the top brass, General Dill and Air Chief Marshal Dowding, proving unequivocally that 808 tanks are parked in the woods south of Aachen. Ida and Mary are completely vindicated, and Alwyn's incompetence is exposed right in front of his superiors.
It's a massive vindication, but the victory is short-lived because the war is far from over. Which brings us to our final section, moving into 1941. The Blitz is ravaging London. We have this horrific, heartbreaking scene. The Café de Paris, the glamorous underground club where Mary and Glyn had argued earlier about extrajudicial killing, is bombed.
It's a terrible moment in the story.
A parachute mine falls directly down a ventilation shaft and detonates in the basement. 34 people are killed, including the beloved swing band leader Ken Snakehips Johnson, who had just been singing to Ida and Mary in the street hours before.
The psychological toll of the war is becoming unbearable at this point. During an air raid, Ida and Mary are taking shelter on the stairs of a tube station. The sheer irony of modern humanity using highly advanced intelligence like aviation and explosives to bomb itself back into the Stone Age is palpable.
Yeah.
Mary introduces the troglodyte theory. This was a real fear held by Home Secretary Herbert Morrison. He believed that if Londoners were allowed to shelter deep in the underground, they would revert to cavemen. They would lose their civilization and never return to the surface.
So what does this all mean? Ida reflects on the bitter irony of her entire journey. She tells Mary, I went into a cave looking for proof of prehistoric goodness, only to find a modern man acting like a savage. And meanwhile, the modern world above them is literally crushing itself into rubble.
But Mary counters her beautifully.
Yeah.
She reminds Ida that without that ancient act of kindness, the care that allowed that prehistoric woman's femur to heal Ida wouldn't have had the fossilized bone to save her own life from the grenade.
It's a really powerful point, but Ida's struggle isn't over. Shortly after, she finds herself in a debate at Oxford with the flamboyant philosopher Freddie Eyre. They are discussing the newly discovered Lascaux cave paintings. Eyre cruelly mocks Ida's belief in innate human goodness. He points out that she has no physical evidence. Her only proof is a blurry photograph of a bone on a tablecloth because the actual bone was blown to dust in the Ardennes.
He's ruthless.
He is. He gestures to the war-torn world outside and asks where her proof of goodness is now. Eyre represents a strict logical positivism. If you can't prove it physically, it's meaningless. And Ida is left completely speechless. She remains a tragic Cassandra figure, knowing the truth but unable to prove it to a world intent on destroying itself.
It perfectly encapsulates the tension of the entire deep dive. Intelligence takes us from the quiet, dusty halls of Oxford to the terrifying darkness of an Ardennes cave. It shows us how the philosophical debates we have in comfortable classrooms about the greater good, about morality, about human nature, can suddenly become brutal, immediate matters of life and death. For you, the listener, the relevance is profound. This story illustrates why critical thinking, challenging assumptions, and seeking multiple perspectives are so essential. Whether you are analyzing a 20,000-year-old bone under a microscope, decoding a Shakespearean spy message, or trying to convince a stubborn, arrogant bureaucracy of a looming threat, the ability to see what others miss and to stand by the evidence is vital.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over today. If a 20,000-year-old healed femur proves that early humans cared for their injured, and a modern parachute mine falling through a ventilation shaft proves we can casually slaughter innocent dancers in a basement. Oh wait, let me rephrase that. If the modern world proves we can casually slaughter innocent dancers in a basement, what does intelligence and civilization actually mean? Are we evolving away from the cave, or are we just finding much more efficient, technologically advanced ways to destroy each other inside it? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you next time.